He didn't not give interviews out of spite. He felt he wasn't doing himself a favor. He thought his films were better than his interviews. Towards the end of his life, he had been thinking that if he stayed absolutely quiet, people would get bored and would all go away. But the opposite happened, and it got worse and worse until they made him into a complete grotesque. So he asked Michael Herr, would he say, can you write how charming I am? Because you cannot say it yourself. You can't say I'm absolutely sweet. You know, there's no way. There were articles I've read where it says he wrote the scene specially for me, and so it's not true. He had written a script. He was now talking to agents, find German actors, and I think, shock and horror, there'd been 2 other ones that were there, and then I arrived in Geiselgasteig to interview him, and I saw him, and he hired me. We liked each other immediately. So, because he was shooting in sequence, by the time I came to shoot it with him, I already lived with him. Intense from absolute sheer work is 2001, because it was without computers, without electronics, handmade. You know, they made the stars with little pinholes in dark paper. It was like somebody called it Santa Claus Workshop. And it was technically a great breakthrough. And of course, he also liked the story. Again, it was I was very moved when we had to show it in the Vatican. And there it was in this huge church, high wall. And suddenly the picture looked very small, very modest against this power building. And I thought, this is a very serious little agnostic prayer, this whole film. It doesn't have the arrogance of, I believe. It has much more of, God, I hope something is there.
Stop, Dave. I'm afraid. My mind is going.
If computers are to be our children, and no doubt one day they will be. First of all, we can easily see we don't have to have the arrogance that intelligence has to live in carbon-based bodies. And absolutely not. And what would you want to have the computer to have most? What are the 2 things? Let's say only 2. And I think it would be love and intelligence in combination. I have a weak spot for Barry Lyndon. I mean, being a painter has a lot to do with that. But and he looked at so many Gainsborough paintings, and he copied it exactly. And they copied the costumes from the painting, and they went to the Bath Museum and got the originals and took them apart, and it really looked good. And so that you feel you are in that century. You know, I really love that.
Looked like something, didn't it?
He was very good friends with Michael Herr, who had been in Vietnam and wrote the book. And to hear him talk about Vietnam was a different story entirely, and far more honest and absolutely aware of what you do become. And the training alone changes people, and he wanted to show that, which he did. And then some people didn't like the cut to now they're thrown into action. And yet it's totally logical, because now they're little war machines, and yet they're all shot by one little girl. All people who worked with him, with very, very few exceptions, where he might have fallen out with people because he felt they weren't taking it as seriously as he and as passionately as he was. Tom and Nicole treated him like their grandfather, you know, and they were very, very close to him and very shocked when he died. And, I think it shows.